Thank you so much for being here. This is really exciting. This is actually the first time we organize an accelerator session for the World Circular Economy Forum. So it feels very good to be here with you today for this session. This is a session organized by Board's Impact Forum together with Chapter Zero Brazil. So we are both within the Climate Governance Initiative. This session is called Board's Oversight of the Circular Value Chain. And here today you have Minna, Halme, Lars Östberg, Katarina Lindström. We're going to introduce them a bit further ahead. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Fernanda Tor. I'm the Operations Director here at Board's Impact Forum, and we also have Liselott Engstam, that is the chair from Board's Impact Forum. Thank you so much for being here. Again, without further ado, let's get started. To start with this session, we just want to set a bit the expectations and introduce you to the agenda. So we will have a short presentation by Minna, a short presentation by Beatriz Luz. We hope that she can join us. And then we have a panel discussion. Just to let you know a little bit about how we usually do this, we would ask you to be muted in this first part of the session. And we are going to remove all the AI systems, etc. But we are going to record the session. The session is being recorded, so we will make it available in YouTube. So you'll have access to all this content anyway. But feel free to join us in the chat box. It's really exciting to organize this also with Chapter Zero Brazil, like I said. So I would encourage everyone to just go into the chat and just let us know where you are writing from and a little bit a small introduction from yourselves. If you have any technical issues, just feel free to reach out to us by email. Before we get started, I would like to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about Board's Impact Forum. Who are we and what do we do? So we are the Nordic chapter from the Climate Governance Initiative. This is an initiative that has many different chapters around the world. So for those of you who are joining us from Brazil, in Brazil you have Chapter Zero Brazil. And the Climate Governance Initiative was set up in collaboration with the World Economic Forum, and therefore we follow the 8 principles for climate governance from the World Economic Forum. That's a bit our guiding star. We started this organization almost 4 years now in 2021, and we have really been driving full speed ahead. So we've had quite a lot of events, and we have a really good network for directors now that are joining us in this journey to drive sustainability at board level. And we also have 2 current training programs. One of the training programs is on AI for boards. We are going to open this cohort soon after the summer. So if you're interested, stay tuned. And then we are also going to open one more edition of our sustainability program that is certified by the Climate Governance Initiative. So we are very happy that we can drive this journey with all of you. And come and join us, help us out, contribute. So we are working with 5 Nordic countries. So it means that we work with board directors, and we're trying to drive this agenda on sustainability at board level, both in Sweden, in Finland, in Denmark, in Norway, and in Iceland. And we are partners with all of the main networks, board networks in each one of these countries. But we're ambitious. We want to do more. We want to keep driving this agenda, and just make sure that we can really create a lot of value for board directors. So join us. Let us know if you want to help us out, if you want to support this journey. Please reach out to us. Just to give you a very short kind of framing for this session, like I said, we follow the 8 principles from the World Economic Forum, and I wanted to just make a super short crash course on these 8 principles. So the first 3 principles have to do with subject accountability, subject command, and board structure. So really, so in terms of governance, that the board also does an inner journey looking at themselves and how good are we at this topic, and how much we are accountable for it. And is our board structure, is this group the right people to address this? Then there's also principles 4 and 5 that have to do with the materiality assessment and the strategic integration. So very much looking into risk opportunities and the strategic impact and how boards can govern that. Um, 6 and 7 have to do with incentivization, reporting, and disclosure. So very much how boards can work through reporting, through disclosure, and drive incentivization to drive this in their organizations, but also how we work with external partners, our stakeholders. How do we govern that process of working with stakeholders? And I would say that in many ways, the session for today will touch all of these topics in in many different ways. But if I would have to choose, then kind of really looking into both exchange, stakeholders, how do we see our value chain as part, and the stakeholders within that value chain as part of something that boards should also govern, um, but also looking at it from the perspective, how versed are we as board directors in the matter of circular economy, and how much we can be accountable then for driving the circular economy agenda within our organizations. So this is just to set a bit the tone for this session, but I do believe that we are going to run very much into all the principles. Um, Without further ado, I would like to introduce you to our first speaker from today, Minna Halme. Minna Halme, she's a professor of sustainability management at Aalto University in Finland. And she has sustainability in business research. Her research is really focused on co-creation of sustainability innovations, sustainable business models, circular economy, and organization for poverty alleviation in low-income and emerging markets. Very relevant for today's session. She is a member of Finland's Sustainable Development Expert Panel, advising for the Finnish government, and of advisory board of Finland's largest retailer, SOC, the Central Chamber of Commerce, and sustainability centers of University of Helsinki and Stockholm School of Economics. So her work has been acknowledged internationally, with recognitions such as Responsible Research in Business and Management, Distinguished Winner of Distinguished Winner Award, Best Paper Annual Award of the Journal Business and Society, Academy of Management, All Academy Best International Paper Award, the One Unorthodox Paper Award, and 3 AOM Best Paper Awards. She has received the Academy of Finland and Cordelian Foundation Awards for societal impact for her research. So it's really exciting for us to have Minna with us today and setting a bit the tone for the session and sharing all her research. Thank you, Minna, for being here. And I'm going to stop sharing so that you can drive your presentation.
Thank you very much for the introductions. Thank you for the opportunity of being here. And so good morning, good afternoon, depending on where in the world you happen to be. My topic today relates to the unusual geopolitical times that we are living in, and the strategic opportunities that circular economy can offer for the security of supply during this era, which is quite different from our past some decades. So the point here is that geopolitical uncertainty has been growing over the past years for different reasons. As you know, wars, hostility are increasing. There has been a recent pandemic that disrupted the supply chains. And there are also natural catastrophes that we are increasingly meeting, such as droughts, floods, wildfires, and so on. And all of these put global supply chains at risk. And what this means is that security of supply is an increasing concern, not only for Europe, but for many other parts of the world as well, given that we live in globally connected times. And while this sounds quite grim, it also means that there is opportunities for circular business, but actually more for other types of circular business models than the recycling models that we are used to hearing about. And now I suppose that some of you are a little bit puzzled, like, what does he mean? Because isn't circular economy the same thing as recycling? And indeed, it isn't. There are several different levels or modes of circularity, and these differ from each other. From the perspective of the ecological load, these are not equally good in the sense that these different forms retain the capacity retain the value of the material that we take for our products and services from the nature in different ways. And the lower we go on this circular economy hierarchy, the more water and energy and chemicals we need in order to implement circularity. And then if we look at the financial value, which I guess is what the board members particularly and company managers would look at, the financial value, that changes on the basis of what kind of business models you manage to develop around these different forms of circularity. So let us look at that a little bit more closely with some examples. What I often hear is that, oh, but there is no business, there is no sensible business at the refuse and reduce levels. And I agree that for the upper level, I haven't yet found a really good business model. But even for the reduce level, there are the on-demand business models, which means that the product is being produced only when the customer is ordering it. I've been recently involved in leading a multidisciplinary textile fashion circularity research project, and one good example of this is Anna Ruohonen, a luxury brand from Finland, where you get your clothing according to your measures, although the selection is there. But this means that there is no extra stock and there is no waste, and customers are happy because the garments are beautiful and long-lasting, and you get them in the colors that you want. Then there are plenty of sharing and sequential use business models nowadays. Maybe one good example here is the Swappy, which is refurbishing and reselling the Apple iPhones, which have been becoming obsolete for a variety of reasons that can be compatible. So basically what Swappy is doing, it's tapping the value that Apple iPhones are made to lose. Then there are various types of logistics models which are taking care of the reverse loops, where the products are returning to their either new seller or to the original brand. For instance, the Ninjas, that's a Finnish company serving so far primarily the Nordic markets, the textile fashion brands that want to have a second cycle for their garments, but who do not want to develop in-house capabilities and systems for getting the garments back to their shops. Then there are various types of repair services, and the key here for the repair service business models is really to making repairs as easy for users as possible. We all know that nowadays it's primarily the other way round. There are refurbishing, remanufacturing models, such as those for office furniture. Again, a Finnish example, Martela outlet has been doing this for several years. And then down we come to the recycling, which is the form of circularity that most of us probably know best, which is turning used materials into new ones, be it textile fibers or be it, for instance, plastic, like with Durat that manufactures bathroom furniture from used plastics. And now let us move on. So we went a bit fast. So what's interesting with the higher circular economy levels is that they require less investment in new industrial capacity than recycling. And this is good from the investment perspectives, but it's also good for the fact that it lowers the downcycling cycle of the products and instead focuses on retaining the value. So value from fleet management solutions that help extending the product lifetimes, relying on digital and logistics services, or the maintenance and repair business models that I mentioned. And to give one interesting example here would be the elevators and escalators corporation Kone, that actually we think that it's a technology and products company, which it is, but over 60% of its sales actually comes from maintenance and repair services, and they tend to be even more profitable than the original sales of the products. Or there are the several firms under the European Textile Services Association serving hotels and hospitals and various types of organizations, which is basically very much about maintenance, repair, fleet management type of approaches. And what these business models require are the new types of services and various types of digital components. And countries that have innovation capabilities, companies that have innovation capabilities, can develop such solutions. And what I want to emphasize is that this is not like sort of going back in time, but much of the point is really the new service business models, the service parts in the business models, as well as the technology components relating to digital tracking and tracing for the reverse and the more local logistics, which circularity often is about. It's about AI-assisted means of doing that, and also about 3D printing of spare parts, because that is very often, that has tended to be the problem of repairs and so on, that you would have to have in stock a lot of spare parts, some of which outdate fast and so on. But if you do 3D printing, that scenario becomes very different. So you would have a digital warehouse instead of massive disposal of outdated inventory and write-offs, and you can manufacture when needed and close to the customer, the spare parts, I mean. And moving on, so what I'm saying is that the reuse, resell, repair, and refurbish models help keeping the materials and products and infrastructures in use for longer periods of time. And by doing that, they lessen the dependency of consumers, of businesses, of other users, of new materials and products that are coming from distant and increasingly precarious sources. And as I already alluded to, countries and organizations that have innovation skills but have less manufacturing base are in good position in this scenario, just as long as they understand this opportunity and are willing to say, start it, rehearse before the crisis hits. And the key question here is really whether we have companies and whether we have investors who understand the circularity business models and who are willing to invest in their development, and who are also keen for organizing the new types of business ecosystems that we need for these kinds of business models. And let me now conclude by saying that indeed these sequential and parallel use of goods can be made much more efficient with new technological and business solutions by thinking quite differently than what we often tend to think of nowadays when new business models are being developed. And emphasizing once more the needs of the new types of technologies to help in implementing these business models. And I would also like to point out that these forms of circularity can also bring about jobs, and jobs both for experts, for educated people, but also to lower skill level individuals who might be at the risk of marginalization in the setting where there is less and less work being offered. And I think that in the European setting, if it won't be watered down, the EU's Green Deal legislation, which includes, for instance, the Right to Repair Directive and the Digital Product Passport legislation, can support the quality of the products that come to the market, especially in Europe, but it might have repercussions elsewhere as well. And if we have good products coming to the market, then it will also be easier to monetize the longevity of these goods and help keeping them longer in use with during life service business models. So I'll finish up here, and I hope that this offers some food for thought, and questions and comments are most welcome.
Super. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Minna. Really interesting presentation and quite a lot of questions coming up for me already. Um, I would encourage all the participants, please put your questions in the chat. Also, we will make sure that we address them. Um, Thank you so much. So I would like to now bring to the stage Beatriz Luz, and I'm going to also share my screen and my presentation of Beatriz. Thank you so much for being with us. It's a real pleasure. So Beatriz has been working in the UK, although she's based in Brazil, with many different companies from all sectors, really implementing sustainability solutions. And in 2014, she was a pioneer in bringing to the circular discussion, bringing the circular discussion to the chemical sector in Brazil. And then in 2015, inspired by the European movement, she launched the Exchange for Change Brazil, a specialized consultancy dedicated really to influence this transition into the circular economy in Brazil. Um, she has been having this flexibility as this kind of independent body coming in to really understand the entire value chain, creating this awareness, developing circular strategies for businesses, influencing how systemic change. Um, and in that journey, she has also been doing a lot of training, both in private, public organizations. She has been a mentor in many different startups, and she has really been kind of implementing this knowledge in many different organizations, many different businesses. As a result of all this knowledge, she has launched now the Circular Economy Hub, aimed at gathering companies from all parts of the value chain to develop systemic projects and business opportunities. It's really, really good to have you with us, Beatriz. Really, really appreciate. Um, I will stop sharing my screen and maybe you will want to share yours.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you very much, Fernanda, and all the others. I'm really honored to be here and sharing a little bit of this journey and highlighting the importance of governance and the board to really push forward with the circular economy transition. Thank you, Katarina, for a great presentation, setting the scene. So I will share my screen now. This one.
It's coming, it's coming. Not sharing yet. Let's wait 1 more second.
Yeah, I think it takes some time, right?
Yes, exactly.
Still black. Hold on. I'll stop and share again.
Maybe if you try to share again.
Yeah.
I just love with even after the pandemic and so much Zoom and everything, there's still these small issues, these small glitches. Maybe if you try to share again.
Hold on. I think you want to now.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. So thank you very much, Fernanda, for your introduction. So just to highlight, since 2015, I'm acting as an independent organization with the aim to influence the transition in Brazil. And 2 years ago, I've joined forces with other experts and we launched the Brazilian Institute for Circular Economy. And I think this has been quite an important journey and presence in Brazil to really move the discussion, to a higher level, to the leadership level. And we're hoping to get more board members to discuss. And I think in our essence, we believe in knowledge exchange and co-creation and adaptation of global solutions for the Brazilian reality. So I guess I will share with you all briefly some of the learnings and the recommendations from this journey of the Brazilian Circular Economy Hub. So this hub is a multi-sector ecosystem in operation since 2020. And the idea is that we can all work together discussing structural changes, education, moving into practical actions. So we have 3 different categories of member companies. The activators, which are the large organizations that activate the system and bring the challenges so we can all work together. The solution providers, the small and medium enterprise, they are really key there on the value chain. And the supporters, which we bring the finance organizations, innovation agencies, and research association, because we do believe that circular economy cannot be achieved alone. So solutions really must be co-created. So at the moment, we have 23 member companies. You see a variety of sectors, because one sector challenge, the solution can be in another sector. So basically, throughout these 5 years with hands-on experience, there are 3 key learnings that we realize very, very important for the transition. So the first is the importance of having a common vision. The point that the solution lies in data and people, and the key to move forward is on the redefinition of roles and responsibility. So what does it mean, having a common vision? It's all the departments, everybody within the value chain, really understanding the route towards circular economy and what it means. So the concept of circular economy maybe sometimes is still not commonly understood by all the companies. So we see the importance of having the CEO there really on board to be able to spread the message. And I share here the World Business Council for Sustainable Development. They launched a guide, a CEO guide for the circular economy. The message is that engaged leadership should really promote a culture and a governance favorable to the transition, to strengthen the circular mindset and make it permeate all areas of the business. The second point we believe is on the solution. The solution lies in data and people. If we want to create reverse logistics, a new business model, transform waste into new raw materials, as Katarina brought to us, develop new platforms, reuse and repair, we need to understand what's the baseline. Where is the data? How do we have access to data? And who holds the data? People holds the data. So we really need to create a trustful environment to be able to access good quality data. And in order to get to the people and get to the data, the first stage is engagement. So on this journey of the Brazilian hubs, we kind of created a kind of memorable and a award stamp, which we call the engagement, circular engagement, because we need to engage, we need to create these ecosystems in order to be able to have access to this data. And the third learning is that we really need to collaborate and share responsibilities and move beyond this view that every department has its roles and, oh, I'm doing my part. We really need to learn how to collaborate and redefine our roles and responsibilities. And by saying that, we came up with a definition for what we call the circular governance. So the circular governance based on 7 key elements. The first being this need for having these hubs with multi-sectoral companies, because it takes time to learn, to get to this common agenda. But we need to consolidate this over time, generating knowledge and maturity. The common agenda is based not just on a personal level, but we need to align, the personal learning, the personal understanding, the organizational understanding, and then the macro ecosystem, the government favorable scenario to be able to really create this common agenda. And in order to get all of these pieces together, we really need a facilitator to bring all these people together and create this common agenda. So normally people think that it's just bringing everybody together, and this means collaboration. So crowding is not just networking. A system is not simply a gathering of people and parts. We really need to create this new trustful environment. So at the end, it's about a new balance, a new economic system that we are creating. There will be tensions, but it's part of this transition and should be seen as natural and necessary. So just moving the points that we need to have data to calculate the impact, and basically for the system approach, we need to expand the boundaries of the evaluation in order to avoid transferring problem from one place to the other. So basically, I just wanted to finish up sharing a very practical example of the white goods value chain. So here in Brazil, we had a policy that was getting the white goods manufacturers to have responsibility for bringing the white goods back, a certain percentage of the products that they were getting into the market. So this design means that in an individual project, there will be much more costs involved, much more work and effort. And if you have an integrated project or even a systemic project, you end up reducing the costs, having more access to material, and secure the legal compromise. So having this expanded project views allows sharing of risks and results. One sector can benefit of the circularity of the other sector, and seeking areas of convergence. So the impact is really on bringing all of these companies together, and as a result, you can have economic benefits, social benefits, generate qualified jobs, and having a future vision for optimizing process and valuing material. And another interesting independent research that we carried out, it's really interesting for the board's perspective, is that there are different types of organization circularity structure. So different companies apply different structures depending on their vision. So if you really have a very strong vision embedded into the company, you will be much more likely to move forwards with circular economy solutions. And also, if you have more if you are more connected with a value chain, you also have a much more possibility of achieving good results with circular economy. So these ecosystems enable the good results, and these transition brokers, these actors that behave in an independent way, will really make it easier for companies to navigate this complexity of circular issues, increasing the likelihood of leading to transformational results. So finally, a recent research demonstrated that the member companies, they are already in a position to put circularity as a mission and a purpose for their business, but they still require support to move this into practices. So even though 86% of members highlighted that the framework around them is favorable, 32 of members still needs to feel ready to start practicing. So basically, having these ecosystems in place, having the leaders really on board and committed to circular economies, we will see much more advance on circular economy. And finally, just a really interesting result produced by the European Policy Institute. It demonstrates that circular economies is really about a system change. And there is a compass that demonstrates, that we really need to redefine everything, redefine not just progress and metrics, but redefine leadership, redefine governments, redefine finance. So we really need to create new indicators for the development of the global economy and a new definition of competitiveness. And that's why it's so important for the board to be on board with circular economy so we can really move forward. And as a final remark, as for the World Circular Economy Forum, we just launched a report, the Brazil State of Circularity, that we highlighted the three main bottlenecks, which starts with literacy, and it's really necessary to align concepts and strengths, narrative, to really educate and engage all the players. We need to talk about new strategy, a new mindset that requires development of new skills, new competencies, and new metrics. And again, the reason why the leadership must be on board. And at the end, we need to create markets, adopt new values, attitudes, and demand for circular products. So 7 instructing actions we highlight to advance the transition. And, just to highlight again, the leadership literacy, the support for collaborative networks, develop of regional roadmaps, and creating a circular finance model. So this is what I wanted to highlight. Here's the QR code if you want to download the report. And as final remarks, it is really essential to stimulate the creation of this collective intelligence, develop a systemic approach, and redefine a new vision of governments, forming multidisciplinary teams and promoting the integration of various sectors if you really want to build a new economy, more regenerative, with benefits for all parts of the value chain. So thank you very much. And looking forward to progressing with our chat.
Super, super. Thank you so much for the great presentation, Beatriz. Really, really interesting. In the meantime, just before we get started, we have just a quick request here in the chat. Someone is asking if the report is available openly, publicly. And if so, maybe you could share the link. That would be great. We have here a request in the chat that I thought I could just jump in and address immediately.
Yes, I
Now
will put
with
the link. I will put the link here in the chat as well.
Awesome, super. Thank you so much. I will go back to share my screen because I would like to introduce our next speakers. So now I would like to also invite to join us here and open a bit more for the debate. Lars Husberg and Katarina Lindström. We are going to start with Lars Husberg. So he's a chairman in 3 private and family-owned businesses in Finland. He's the chairman of boards of Efima, Hedengren, and Lapset. And previously he has been boards of Contutot and Fingertip. I probably butchered how to pronounce that, but help me out, Lasse. And throughout his career, Lars Husberg has developed strategies, led changes, working as a consultant, but also as a CEO himself. And he has worked quite a lot also with technology companies. So he was selected one of Finland's top 100 IT influencers 2005, 6, 7, and 2023. He was nominee for Digital Leader of the Year in Finland, among 3 other candidates. So thank you so much, Lars, for being here. I will also introduce Katarina and invite everyone to stage and then start with the discussion. Katarina Lindström, she's also a board director, RHI Magnesita, former COO of Hempel AS, and former board director also, non-executive director at Granges. Katarina has her foundation in operations with a very long international career, has led transformation operations and the value chain at executive and board level, always structuring organizations in lean, efficient manner. And she has had long international career at Volvo Group, for example, with positions in Sweden, Japan, as well in Munters AB in Sweden, and Hempel AS in Denmark. Thank you so much for being here, Katarina. I'm just going to make sure that we have all of you here also as speakers, but I would like to start with you, Lars. And I myself, from the presentations, there were two aspects that really kind of jumped out at me. One of them was the ecosystem perspective that Beatriz really presented so well, and the other one was, I thought, very interesting also from Minna, is this idea of kind of the longevity. So it seems to me like it's very much a system perspective, that the ecosystem, what you do with the players now, but a bit of even this long-term thinking aspect also. I was just wondering, before we even start with the questions, what were your thoughts about the presentations? What were the aspects that that you would like to point out?
Yes, thank you very much for good presentation for both Nina and Beatriz. I think starting with Nina's presentation, it was a nice opportunity to look at circularity as a defensive measure for international or for this, let's say, the global uncertainty and in logistics, so that we keep the products and the materials moving in our business locally. And also the approach, which I also share, is that circular economy, it has to be the more ambitious ways of doing circular business with less with less yeah, on that. And because if you go to reduce, I think that one challenge I feel in the companies where I work is that being successful in that type of business, you have to be involved very early in the design process, designing products, designing services, designing business models. And that I think is one big challenge. And then about the investments, of course, it's less investments in the industrial capacity. But then again, being in the new circular economy, we have to build new value chains. And I find, again, here a challenge in the company is that we need to invest in these new infrastructure that has to be scalable, cost efficient, still with small initial volumes. And that's a business issue that we have been struggling with. And also when products are in use for 10 to 20 years, is that the technology changes a lot. So how do we bring the old technology products into reuse? So, but still the whole the different steps of the circular economy, and I very much like the higher ambition of doing that, and that's my goal also. And then especially, as you already said, Fernanda, what Beatriz said was we need the ecosystem and also the different roles of the companies. I think that's very important for each business to see that are we an activator or provider or a supporter. And I think that we really need good activators to, let's say, get this going on. And then we have a lot of course, supporters and a lot of companies want to be providers, but we really need the activators. And and then what is the role of the individual companies. And I think this is also an interesting question for us in the board, that what role do we want to play here? Are we an activator in our own value chain? And many of my companies work in the building value chain, which is very traditional, very difficult to change. And here we really need the big companies to be activators. But yes, thank you for good presentations.
Super, very good points, very good points. And as you were speaking, I saw some nodding also from Beatriz and Minna, so I'm guessing quite a few comments coming up also. Before we proceed, and I have also here some questions for Katarina, but I am super curious on the specific experience being a board director in the context of family-owned businesses. There's this idea that family firms often take this kind of multi-generational view, so that you really have this time perspective in a different way. And you were making now also the point about time and what you design for now and what you design for later. And so I'm a bit thinking, from a board director, how can you balance this long-term stewardship perspective, but also, your typical short-term financial pressures when you're steering companies into these kind of practices and mindsets?
Well, a challenge we work with in the family-owned businesses is that, of course, the short-term profitability and then the long-term performance, so that we can give the company to the next generation from whom we have borrowed it. And with the short-term profitability is, of course, the dividends for the family owners. And and some of the family companies really have sustainability in their values. One of the companies where I work, and the other one of the other companies is that they have promoted sustainability already many years, and they have had EcoVadis for 4 years and all ISO certificates. So they are very much pushing sustainability and climate things. And then the third company provides services, sustainability service, IT services, and data services. However, I think that all the actions we do today are too short term. They are sustainability fixes, and I'm struggling with putting in a true transition planning and have a long-term view, longer term than the traditional strategic perspective, which is 3 to 5 years. How would we have a 10-year perspective on sustainability? And so far I'm struggling with this, though they have sustainability in their core values.
Yeah. I saw, Minna, that you were putting a little bit of a thumbs up. Do you want to make a comment there? Do you have the magic solution on how to do this?
Yes, I wish that is what I'm very much trying to teach at different levels, the long-term solutions. But I think that Lars is just so right, that it's really that to imagine that long-term solution and understand sustainability as something that we should really be heading at the long term for clearly lower climate footprint, clearly lower material uses, longer term keeping up the infrastructures and products and materials in the cycle. It requires so many things. It's changes in the business model, it's changes in the business ecosystems and partnerships that you can't just quickly fix it. And I was just thumbs up, like it's great if boards start to think with that kind of perspectives. And I also was thinking that sometimes I can see that the younger generations in family companies may understand this even a little bit better, and bringing them in to the discussions might be very helpful as well. And I know that some companies are, of course, some family-owned companies and their boards are doing it.
Yeah, that's a very good point. a new generation that maybe is a bit more aware, that can help from that perspective. I would like to also bring Katarina to join us in the discussion. And I would like to start, Katarina, by making you a bit the same question that I did to Lars, actually. You know, what were your key takeaways from this presentation, from your perspective, you know, from the board perspective as a non-executive board director? What were the aspects from the presentations that you thought were particularly interesting?
I think first is that I thank you very much for a very good presentation. It's really touching the key point that sustainability or circular economy, neither of it can actually stand outside the boardroom and can't be outside the management room. And I think if you really would like to go in this direction, you need to really start with the strategy, because there are so many things that you can do. So you need really to prioritize what does really matter for the company. And there is, of course, the board's responsibility to support and to prioritize. I must say I'm extremely lucky. I started my career path operationally in the Volvo Group. Volvo Group already had a very early stage. The core values was really, say, safety, quality, and environment. So I have experienced even 20 plus years ago that we actually worked with circularity, trying to actually build ecosystem with both, say, suppliers, but also ecosystems with companies that were neighbors to us, close to the factories, etc., to find ways of actually create like zero waste, reusing material from the different areas. And that is something that I brought with me into the different discussions in the boardroom. I think it's also, especially, it's very easy to talk about circularity and talking about reusing like aluminum. As you mentioned earlier, I has been in Gränges, where the percentage of used aluminum in the Gränges products is very, very high. Same in the RHI Magnesita, where I am today. We are, from a board perspective, we are following up how far have we been going when coming to utilizing reused material and remanufactured material into the products and so on. But I think here, if we both of you are touching it, is also it's I think the challenge I have seen from a board perspective. I think even if the board are very, very ambitious in the journey into that direction, that doesn't mean that the customers are really mature to take on board, say, all the good ideas that the company has. Because to make it very simple, many customers, they are used to buy products by kilo, if you talk about raw material products, for instance, or by ton, or they are not so used to buy products by function. And I think here is where actually the board, together also with the management of the company, needs to work together to find ways of actually educating the customers for the sake of the good.
It's super interesting, this aspect about bringing up this education or awareness, or actually this was not in our planned set of questions, but I just thought that was such an interesting point. How could the board do that? Do you have ideas? I mean, one of the aspects that we talk a lot on the eighth principle from the World Circular Economy Forum, that the 8 principles that guide board's impact forum, as well as the other chapters from the Climate Governance Initiative, right? This stakeholder exchange, we talk quite often that there's a big aspect of that, which is to coordinate with regulators, with public policy, engage with other businesses in the ecosystem to kind of but I thought it was particularly interesting that you brought the customers, kind of the education of the customers. So a bit going into brainstorm mode. How could the board drive that?
I think it's one thing is also when, for instance, when you are normally a board is going out to the market and at least having some trips a year visiting both, say, the company's own operations, but also visiting customers. And it's a very good opportunity just to start that kind of dialogue in that kind of setting. And I don't think you should underestimate either, say, the need of education also, or informing the investors amongst others, that the importance of actually driving this change in the business model, also from a sustainability perspective, not only from pure profitability perspective.
Really interesting points. To also use those moments that already exist and add this extra layer to it. I know that you have a very strong background, of course, in kind of operations and also within this heavy industry. I'm looking a bit specifically also to the quantitative metrics. So
Yes.
maybe education is a bit more on the soft side, maybe somehow. But if we look a bit into this kind of hard numbers, what can these quantitative aspects give boards the clearest decision aspects to create a picture for circular performance, especially when we're talking about this complexity about a supply chain that is maybe in multiple regions, etc. What's that hard numbers aspect?
Of course, there's a lot of discussions right now about all the reporting and all the data and how we actually are managing it. But and also the materiality assessment. I think if you're doing the materiality assessment in the correct way, and if you at least make sure that you prioritize the areas which really matters for the company in this field, you really need to deep dive into the data as a board and understand. For me, it's very easy. It's what kind of input do you have and what kind of output do you have? And then, of course, you need to understand how you're measuring that. And that is, for instance, an example can be that you're measuring how much of the total amount of material that you are buying do you actually is recycled material. That is a very simple one. It's a little bit funny story, but I met a fisherman from the Swedish West Coast at the time. And he said that, I learned when I was 70 years that there are no waste. It's just your own imagination what you can do new products out of it. And I think that is also on the other end. I think it's much easier to control what you do measuring inside the company, but also that you're measuring that you don't put things in deposit, or you would not like to go for incineration either. So if you can actually measure that to see that you go for zero waste to incineration and deposit, then you're really far on the journey. And then if you can also measure how much of, say, the outgoing is actually going to new products in a way, that is also an area where you can measure. But I think it's very important, and it helps a lot now with the reporting and also with the prioritization around materiality assessment, where you're going to putting the efforts as a board.
Very good examples. Very, very good examples. I would like to also bring you into the conversation, Minna. Looking a bit specifically into, all we need to do is just turn on the news and to see several different examples of supply chain shocks, from wars to wildfires. So your research is really kind of connecting this and making the point that to be more circular is a way to address these challenges also. So how can boards' circular business model help a company keep operating when global supply chains are disrupted? Could you elaborate a little bit more on that?
I think that the key first step here is really that the boards understand the risks, which I think that they do already to a great extent, but then connect the risk with a circularity possibility, and then it opens up completely new horizons on what to do about it. So instead of sort of, chasing like yet more linear supply chain solutions, more suppliers, and securing that we will have suppliers if that and that and that fails, but rather starting to pilot those new circular business models aside of your currently primarily linear value chain would make a lot of sense. And that there are examples of these kinds of approaches already without you hitting the heavy risk and only then operating. If I'm thinking of, for instance, a Finland-based but an international computer leasing company, 3-step IT, which is basically about sequential use of computers, new ones to those who need it. It's primarily businesses. The second tier ones to those who can take a good one, but 2 or 3 years old refurbished model, and then finally recycled after 6 or 7 years of the computer life. And it's been operational for nearly 30 years and constantly growing. So learning from these kinds of companies, doing it early on, beginning to pilot already when it's not necessary. And I do recognize what Lars said earlier about that also building the reverse logistics infrastructure and the customer base and so on. It's not, you don't just do it like that, but it's also a question of sort of investments and retraining people, getting the right skills. But I think that it is really one of these long-term solutions that makes sense to start trying out at this point when we see that the future is not going to look more secure. I think it's for many reasons going to look less secure if thinking it from the perspective of the global supply chains.
Exactly. We unfortunately don't have any expectation that things will become easier, right? It really feels like quite the opposite. And I think that that's a really valuable aspect of if we know we need to do this, the sooner we start, the sooner we learn, right? The sooner we kind of get an advantage somehow.
Yes, and I mean it can be the first mover advantage or it can be the second mover advantage, but it's going to be more and more of that advantage coming in the next years for those who started or have started it.
Exactly. So might as well get started. On that note, Beatriz, I was thinking, I mean, because you have quite a lot of experience also working in many different Brazilian companies, Brazilian multinationals. What do you think are the board level mechanisms, either committees, KPIs, incentive schemes, etc.? Which ones do you think have been the most effective within the Brazilian context, driving this shift towards circular value chains within the Brazilian market?
Yeah, thanks, Fernanda. I think it's the point about aligning the individual objectives and the macro objectives. So, for example, on the white goods value chain, what really has speed up the process was the macro environment, which means the policy orientation, the sectorial approach. The federal government has set up rules for the white goods so that the public policy really drive the market and push the market. We know that people and companies change for 2 reasons, with incentives or with punishment. So I guess having a very well guideline, it really speed up the process. So being from the government or internally, and that's why I think the leadership has to be really committed. And this guidelines that you mentioned about having indicators for the C-level based on results of circularity, really moves forward. So having a common vision, a strategic mindset towards circular economy, it will spread the message across all the departments. It's really crucial that all the departments get together and have a common understanding.
So a bit of a mix of kind of vision alignment and following it up also with kind of hard facts, sort of making it concrete somehow. That's I think a very good point. We have a bit here of a bit of a provocative question, I would say, coming in the chat from Liselotte. And I don't know, Liselotte, would you like to come in to the conversation and put the question yourself? I don't know if you are available. But I can already hear the question in my mind. I think I know. I think it's a very good point.
So my question is really, do you really think that the topic of circularity is really making it into the boardroom? And have we really explored the value creation impact it could do to our companies?
Is it even being addressed at all?
Yes.
Carina, do you want to thumbs up also? What are your thoughts? Do you want to jump in?
I think it's a good provocative question, but depends on what kind of industry you're into, my view. And I can only go to the latest board experience I have, where it doesn't go to one single board meeting without us having measurements on how much we are developing the business of recycling of refractory materials. And it is actually a good business, because you have a lot of expensive materials in the waste coming out after the products are used. So we can say on an early stage, it was actually defined as a separate business model, which has been running like a joint venture. So on that kind of topics is definitely on the board agenda. I think if I go to my Volvo experience, it was not really on the board agenda, because it was actually already to a big extent incorporated in the daily life of the company. If I take, for instance, an engine, it was actually designed for remanufacturing already 30 years ago. And that is now running as a separate business. So I think then, of course, you boost that business by focus from both management and the board. But I think depending on where you are and what kind of, maturity you're coming from. But I think it's also really back to what you said, Beatriz, here, that where you have policies, when you have legislation that is pushing you, to a new level of, circularity or emission legislation, whatever it is, it's like a do or die for the business that you're actually managing it. Then, of course, it becomes a key strategic topic for the board to follow up on it.
Yeah, absolutely. So very much depending on where you come from. Lars,
I have to be even more provocative then.
Yeah, please jump in.
Going down from 7.2% only that is actually reused material in the world to 6.9% over the last year. It can't be enough on the board agenda. It can be on certain companies. The question is it a supply chain issue, so that we don't ask enough of our suppliers or the ones we're providing to, because there is something that is not working? I look forward to hear all of your comments, including Minna, as you're researching this.
May I jump in with
please.
one comment, one perspective? I think indeed that companies differ a lot in this respect, and what Katarina was saying, that the recycling aspect is something that is kind of more easy to follow in numbers. And then that can become agenda in those companies, and I mean those boards who have internalized the point. But then it's more difficult when you go up in the circular economy hierarchy to the refurbishing, reusing, reselling models. Then it's not like you don't have so easy numbers. So you would have to, start grafting those, and then that requires even a bit more. And I think that is actually very much needed, Liselotte, those models, in order to come down with those really astonishing figures. If we think about how much talk and text has been produced about circularity over the past 5 to 10 years, and then having that figure from last year, which is basically saying that yes, circularity has reduced. I mean, it's shocking. We all should be like, what on earth is happening here? And I think that one of the reasons is really that the low-hanging fruit with recycling have, they've been picked already earlier on. Now it's more difficult to pick those. And then at the same time, we have this faster and faster resources consuming business models in different fields, be it textiles, be it furniture, buildings, and so on. And then our macro numbers go completely the bad way. So my answer is we need to develop the business models that are the upper hierarchy models in addition to the recycling ones.
So I think, Minna, you have an assignment. You need to help us now share some of that. Katarina, I actually think also that you're doing a tremendous work, and also you, Lasse. We need to find ways to actually share a bit more on how you're doing it, what you're following on your boards, that others can try to emulate. So looking forward to continue to discuss. Thank you so much.
Yeah, maybe one comment in addition from my side, and I think with your challenge about why is it not increasing, it's actually decreasing. I think going back to you, Minna, about say the higher levels in your development area, sort of, there is where you're coming into that you need also, if you're prolonging the life of a product, and you are actually developing the product to use less, how do you build a business model? And I think there you get the conservatism in the market, and you actually have, say, a challenge really to motivate, say, the organization and the sales force that is also incentive driven to sell in a new way. So it's a lot of change management into this.
Exactly, and the KPIs for the management and for the staff and so on, that's one, as you say, one really key part of making the change happen.
We have an interesting question also very much. Sorry, Beatriz, to just jump in. Do you want to take it away? I was going to take a question from the chat, but please complete.
No, yeah, if I could just add, the point is multi-stakeholder intervention is key. And I think we need to learn how to work in a multi-stakeholder environment. We are very much closed within our boundaries, within our walls, and we need to create new rules, new indicators for investment and return. And as Katarina said, this is very tricky for the board to come up with. And these new numbers, these new investments and return indicators, they must be created beyond your company boundary. So for me, there are three key messages that I'm bringing from this discussion, and also as a result of the World Circular Economy Forum the last 2 days. Stakeholder engagement and partnerships are a must. But how do we really engage all the stakeholders? How do we work beyond our company boundaries? The second key point, the transition is all about leverage each other's strengths. So that's why I talk a lot about roles and responsibility, how I learn to get my colleague to support me in a world that we are pushing for more and more individual kind of roles. How do we really learn to cooperate we need to build trust. And this for me is the fuel of all of this. And that's when we have like a complex system that we have to redesign, when it's all about people. And so Lise Lolette, how do I say your name? Lise Lolette. It's all about people and inspiring people with inspiring cases, as you said. As Minna said, creating the right numbers, the right figures. The numbers are not set there. So we need the pioneers, we need good leaders to come up and step up. And as I've heard before, fail fast, learn fast, because we don't have time to wait anymore. So it's a joint learning. That's why we need governance and good governance.
We need to get this show on the road, right? That's really a key aspect. It's really interesting because what we are debating here is actually also going on in our shops in this event. It's kind of interesting, two parallel discussions going in. So I wanted to bring up here a really interesting point from Scott Newton. And he was saying that the biggest seller of clothing in France is now Vinted, so the resale platform, and that they have surpassed, the big fashion brands. And then we also had a follow-up comment from Joanna saying that if Vinted was if Vinted was the owner of these clothing brands, and so very much to this point of the collaboration. And then another comment following up on that one, also from Scott Newton, on the so the need for circularity to be driven more within these peer-to-peer platforms. Will it be, from these neutral players, or driven even from the brands themselves? So very much to the points that we are also here debating. I also wanted to bring up a question here from Lucina, and she's asking, how do you create a long-term strategy then for circular economy when we are in this stage of creating relevant business models? So again, this managing the two time perspectives. And I would also like to bring one more layer to this discussion. I would like to bring also Lars. I know that you have been working quite a lot since we are talking about combining the future and the present, and how do you manage these two. I know that you particularly have been working a lot with future thinking and scenarios. And so I was wondering, maybe if you want to reflect a bit on these questions from the chat also, and also maybe potentially bringing your experience about how to work with the future at board level.
Yes. It was interesting going into the future and foresight thinking, and we created a methodology to create as risk and opportunity. They're the two flip sides of a coin, and everyone talks about risks and about uncertainty in the future. So we started to look at uncertainty in order to build clarity, and then we changed the risks and uncertainty into future pictures, and usually 3 different type of future pictures. And actually in 2 of the companies, one of the 3 future pictures had the heading creating customer value through sustainability. Because when we together discussed, the owners, the board and the management discussed together far enough into the future about opportunities and risks, and many risks became opportunities. That's how sustainability got up on the agenda. However, now when we start creating new business based on true sustainability to our customers, then we come to the question that at what pace do companies renew their products, renew their services, and renew their business models? And do we speed it up, and how do we speed it up? And then I come back to Beatriz's view of you have to change the ecosystem. And we have not looked at the ecosystem level yet. But the great thing here is that we have still found a lot of pockets of great green products. Like in one company, we use condensators instead of batteries. So we don't have to change batteries because condensators have a long life and they consume less energy. And then we can use half the cable because we use only one cable when competitors use two. But it is more productivity in installation work, not sustainability. So we have hidden sustainable features in our products that we haven't seen, and we do software-based sensors instead of hardware-based sensors. So we have less products, less materials, less stock. And at one company also that we use Nordic electricity, which is very, very clean compared to our competitors in Poland. So we had a huge environmental positive feature here. So one thing is to find all the great green products we have and put let's say, a new type of marketing and sales activity on that and bring that up. And then we start building on that and thinking, hey, what else small things can we do? And I think that's a way to build energy to do something immediately, because we cannot wait 20 years. And then maybe learn better how we then, from the future picture, start building new business models that are more sustainable.
No, exactly. We need to get started. Definitely, that's a really good point.
I have to admit, it requires hell of a lot of work from the chairman of the board or someone to kick ass all over that owner board management decision.
Yeah. So we need more of you, Lars. We need more chairpersons.
We need to educate more,
are
like you have done.
interested
Educated
in
me.
driving. We'll just clone you a lot and send you to Brazil also and to the world. I know that Beatriz has to leave because she has also another session from the World Circular Economy Forum. So I'm guessing these have been very intensive days for you there in Brazil, Beatriz. So we will let you go, but before we let you go, I just wanted to, your last words, concrete actions. We have quite a few board directors with us here today, not only board directors, but what can we do as sitting in boards? Concrete actions. What are your kind of, if you would say maybe one thing,
Yeah, well, I think
now.
As Lars said, literacy is important and is key. So maybe education is the first step. Learn, study, get inspired by others they are already doing, and let's change the mindset that is difficult, it's complex, let's face the challenge and let's be pioneers and change things for the better of all. So I'm really happy to be here in this conversation, and I'm really sorry that I now have to rush, but thank you all, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Super. Thank you so much, Beatriz. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I would like to thank you. I would like to just follow up with a question to you, Katarina, and bring you into the discussion a bit more. Looking specifically, so we have been discussing quite a lot. What can we do? Where do we start, etc. But I would like to turn the question a bit around, which is, okay, when these ambitions collide with the reality of operations and operational roadblocks. So it's a bit twisting the question on the other way around, when things go wrong, how can boards address these challenges and kind of recalibrate the targets and without losing this momentum?
I think as it is very much, if you're working with circularity and in all levels, it's very much about innovation. And of course, sometimes you don't know if it works or not. So I think the board must be aware of that. Never say 2 out of 5 cases maybe they will not succeed, and then we need to be able to adopt. And I think we talk about, say, if we could see this as a crisis in a company, more innovation will come. And at least my experience is that when you really need to change, and that is what I mean with policies or legislation, you're actually forced to find other ways of going around it. So I think it's also important from board not just to accept that it doesn't work. We need to continue to challenge the management and the organization to try to find new ways. And that is really the balance act that you need to take in a board, because you're also there really to be persistent and actually continue to challenge the company to move ahead.
Exactly. So to be that internal voice, to keep the ambition level, even if it seems like it's not going as we wanted, but to have the eyes on the ball, kind of thing. Absolutely. I would like to also, so we usually, when we have these sessions from Board's Impact Forum, we traditionally have a bit of a breakout room, and then we come back and we share insights. But today we have a slightly different format, also because of the World Circular Economy Forum accelerator session. So I would like to actually invite everyone that is here in the session also to come up with their questions. We have been addressing quite a few questions in the chat also, but it would be great if you could also at this moment, if you want to jump in to the conversation and mute yourself and make a few questions or share your thoughts. I think that would be also really good. So please just let me know if someone wants to come in. I would like to follow up also with one more question to you, Minna. Now that we are talking about how to do this a bit more in a concrete way, could you share one Nordic example where these aspects of circularity have been clearly implemented, that were implemented in a way to save money or protect profits? Could you share a concrete example?
Yeah. I mean, those business models are really there already. I can think of a variety of, say, chemical management services business models already from years ago, or the famous interface carpets example, where this interface carpets was at the brink of bankruptcy. They were then selling whole floor carpets, and they either, they would have to cease to exist, or they would need to start a completely new business model. What they started was the carpet leasing model, which then spread, and it actually became a so successful model that now many companies follow it already. So that's kind of an old example. Then what I can see, for instance, if I take more local example, is again from the IT world. We had this relatively small company called Taitonetti, and now only Lars understands what that means. And they were repurposing computers. And a couple of years ago, they were bought by investors because it had started to pick up, and the investors wanted to come in and start scaling it up. Now it's called Nouveau, and it is more and more professionally offering refurbished laptops and other types of computers, game consoles, and so on to the market. So it's many kinds of stories that you can have here. You can start from the bankruptcies next to you, or you can start from a situation where there are idealistic people setting up a model and then bigger money coming in, and so many possibilities really of how it can start. I don't know if I answered to what you were asking, but I've had something else in mind which I want to share as like even like the finishing words, is that last year a very interesting figure is that the luxury garment brands like Gucci and so on, their new products sales went down from the previous year. But their second cycle, so used brand clothing, which they were selling, they're reselling their own brand, those sales actually picked up a lot. And I think that this is one of the, not any longer so silent signals that we should take quite seriously, that if you have a good brand, you have a durable product, then you can recapitalize the product multiple times. And this seems to be now going on with the luxury fashion brands.
Super good points. Super good points. I think also very good kind of words to wrap up the webinar. Thank you so much. That's very, very insightful. Before I close the session, we are going a bit over time already. I just wanted to share with you just what's up next at the Board's Impact Forum. So we would like this to be the beginning of a beautiful friendship with all the participants that are with us today. So I would like to share our upcoming events. We have coming up now on the 18th of June, Digital Savvy Boards Leading in the Age of AI. We are going to be with Stephanie Werner, with Bertil Carlsen, Charlotte Nielsen. I will be introducing the research that Liselotte Engstad, me, and Robin Tegland have been doing also on AI for boards. So if you have a board mandate, you can attend our traditional sessions that are closed for board directors. And then also on the 26th of June, we have a session on the future boardroom, really how to transform and how to work at board level in these turbulent times. But I would really like to wrap up the session by having a huge thank you to Chapter Zero Brazil. It wouldn't have been possible to drive this session without our colleagues and kind of a mirror organization in Brazil. Thank you so much for helping us organize this session. Also to the Finnish Embassy in Brazil that has been helping us on disseminating the event. And our deep gratitude to all the speakers, to Minna Halme, to Beatriz, to Lars Husberg, and Katarina Lindström. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to the rest of the Board's Impact Forum team. Make sure you join us, become a member. And we have discussed so much today the idea of keep kind of educating and getting involved and learning further. So join us and let's do this session together.